what is love and understanding your highest spiritual virtue. And so, first and foremost, I like to start off with the problem because I think without any doubt, you can see across all spectrums that there is a huge problem when it comes down to love. You have old school teachings, you have perspectives, you have all these other things that interfere with the authentic nature of this ever elusive term, love. So, as we dive into it, I kind of want to go back and do a real quick review from last month's discussion because I highlighted those problems and we talked about them in detail. So, first and foremost, I want to make sure that we address what love is not. Because again, that's where we hung our hat, and we started unpacking some things. And Miss Anita V, she added some amazing value to it. So first and foremost, it has absolutely nothing to do with the fairy tales that you grew up reading, grew up watching, and have absolutely nothing to do with those romance novels that captivated your attention. We appreciate those people, but absolutely they are totally outside of the scope of love. Secondly, it has absolutely nothing to do with how you feel. It is not personal gratification, none whatsoever. Even though we wanted to make it all about that because it kind of goes back to those romance novels and things of that nature, has nothing to do with it. Next, it is not manipulation, right? That kind of brings the feelings into full circle. Because if I could use it to make you do a thing, that is the definition of manipulation, and it's
Right.
outside of the concept of what love is. Next, it has nothing to do with personal preference. Personal preference is a thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what we cannot do is confuse that with what love really is. Next, it is not hypocritical or it is not hypercritical. Again, we can't be hypocrites and we can't be overly critical of the other person, right? We got to make sure that we bond ourselves with the right person. And then next, we started talking about the concept of love, and we brought some scriptures to the table. So again, this amazing conversation, go back and look at it so you can capture those scriptures. And then next, we started talking about what love is. And then again, that was more scriptures we brought to the conversation. And then the last point we discussed on last discussion was the framework of love. And I think that was where a lot of value was assigned. So today, we're going to hang our hats into what I like to call practical application. Now, it's going to be, I mean, I think, well, you'll see it. I'll just say it that way. I can't even describe it. You'll see it. It's like, how do you practically apply a thing when it comes down to a theoretical concept, right? Because again, when we really stop and think about it, no one has really seen in with their own eyes the authentic nature of it. So, how can we practically apply a thing? Well, first and foremost, I like to start off with First Corinthians chapter 13. And if you remember from last month's discussion, I called this the International Love chapter. And I talked about, I think, verses 4 through 8, and it always hits social media when you're mad at somebody. But I want to start after 8. So let's start at verse 9 through 13. Um, and if you have it, awesome. I give you a second to get there if you don't. But again, First Corinthians chapter 13, verses 9 through 13. And it reads as such. And I'm going to read from the Amplified Bible because I want you guys to get the context, like the details behind it. So, starting at 9, for we know in part and we prophesy in part, for our knowledge is fragmentary and incomplete. But when that which is complete and perfect comes, that which is incomplete and partial will pass away. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. For now, in this time of imperfection, we see in a mirror dimly, a blurred reflection, a riddle, an enigma. But then, when the time of perfection comes, we will see reality face to face. Now I know in part, just in fragments, but then I will know fully, just as I have been known fully by God. And now there remain faith, abiding trust in God and his promises, hope, confident expectation of eternal salvation, love, unselfish love for others growing out of God's love for me. These three, the choicest graces, but the greatest of these is love. And I like reading that from the Amplified because it kind of helps to bring those things which we may not have necessarily conceptualized in the midst of the discussion. It brings those things full circle. So, Miss Onita V, the first question I'm going to throw at you today is why is God's perspective of love more right for mankind than previously learned perspectives?
because it's not tainted, it's pure. There's nothing, there's no fault in it. Where there's fault in how we love someone because we put conditions on it. God didn't condition his love for us. He loves us because he is love. He created us. So I would say if we are going to interpret, or not interpret, but we're going to use someone's love language or someone's love definition, it should be the one who is love, not, okay, I love you today because you're doing everything that I wanted you to do. But tomorrow, when you get on my nerves, I don't love you, I don't like you, I don't want to talk to you. It's fault in that. It's not pure. It's not something that I would want my kids to have. I don't want my siblings, my parents to have. I want what God wants for me. I want what He has made me into be, which is an image of Him. And if I'm truly walking in that image, then I am showing people love, even if I don't really care for what they're doing. Because again, it's not the person, it's the spirit behind it. So if we choose God's perspective of love versus mankind, it's pure. There is, I mean, is there is no. I'm trying to find the words that I want to use, but there is nothing evil in it. There is nothing manipulative about it. There is nothing. I mean, it's just pure. We don't get that type of love from people, and it's because we have our own perspective, what we think it should be. We think it should be the novels. We think it should be the flowers. Oh, he got me flowers today. He really loves me. Does he? No, the Lord loves us when we're in his presence and when we're out of his presence. He said he'll never leave us nor forsake us. So whether we are sitting here in the word, he loves us. If I'm not, excuse my term, I'm not gonna curse, but if I'm not up at somebody's behind, sucking up to them, then it's like, well, I don't like you anyways. Well, you only like me because of what you could get out of me. We have a father that loves us regardless. So I choose his love versus this humankind, this mankind of love that we have, and we as a society as a whole have developed over time. It's not pure. It is faulty and flawed.
You know what? I so love listening to your perspective on this question because I think you're absolutely correct. I love your depiction of, and I tend to call it removing the control mechanism from something that has absolutely nothing to do with something that we can create and generate under our own scope. Like if we understand and accept his version of what love really is, it removes all facets of control. That
Yeah.
means that what I do because of the relationship that I have with him, and you become the beneficiary of that behavior. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of go back and talk about the things we talked about last week, because within the scope of those things, I think you can clearly see manipulation and control and all of those other things that clearly move outside of God's perspective of love. I was watching TV this morning, so I'm going to say that. I was watching TV this morning, right? And of course, Mother's Day is next week. Thank you for correcting me because I thought Mother's Day was this week. But Mother's Day is next week for those of you who were like me and didn't know and thought it was Sunday. Um, One of the things that I seen was a Zales commercial. And of course, this is their opportunity to advertise the perfect jewelry for Mother's Day because you want your mother to feel special. Newsflash. If Mother's Day is the only day I make my mother feel special, then that is the problem within itself because I don't necessarily understand what love is. I lean on a particular day and I allow the world to tell me when to make my mother feel special. It's because of the God that's in me that makes me want to make my mother feel special. Not on Mother's Day, but every day that He allows me to wake up, every day that He, blesses me to go forth because He still has work for me to do. I don't limit that just to mothers. That's to fathers, that's to friends, that's to significant others, that's whatever. So that's my point. So when you look at it from that perspective, that removes any facet of control. I don't need to go to Zales and spend $300 on a necklace just to make my mother feel special.
Right.
I think that's ridiculous. Now, again, the other side of it is that we should be able to do those things without the motivation to do so. We should do it just simply because of who they are. So now the God in me recognizes the God in the other person. And so it's not because of how they look, how they shape, their complexion, none of those things. It's because of what's in them that makes me want to do those things. It's because of what's in me that says, hey, do this. And so now that changes the perspective of what the superficial aspect of love is compared to an authentic nature of love. It's not the things that will fade away that make me do. It's the thing that's everlasting in me that makes me do. It's the
Mm-hmm.
way that I move, the way that I behave around this person because I want to bring the best out of this person, not because I'm looking for some sort of emotional gratification, right? Some type of feeling. I want to invoke a feeling. Well, that becomes a temporary high. That's the
Right.
new version of the drug. So you stop taking the drugs in the street, and now the drug now becomes the emotion. So that becomes the difference. So when you look at it from that perspective, I think that changes the aspect. So remove the drugs from the equation, remove the temporary high, remove the manipulation, remove the control, and ask ourselves the question: what is it that God would have me to do in relation to this person? What is it that God would have me to do to uplift and edify? Like Paul said, you have to learn to esteem others higher than yourself. Well, if
Yep.
I am telling you that you need to put me on a pedestal, that's a problem. So, yes, indeed, I thank you for that. And I don't know, I think,
I like what you said when you said it becomes a drug.
mm,
That's what the highlight reels are for people who are posting on social media
mm,
because they think that that's real. So then they're looking for that high of the one post, but they're not seeing what was going on before they posted
you know what?
that.
You're starting already. I'm
I'm,
trying to,
I'm going. You said it
I'm trying to
when
be
you
good.
said it. It was like that is what it is. They're
Eh,
looking for that, and what is it? The endorphin release. I think that's what it is.
yeah.
It's love listens.
Mm.
Love is not always smiling in somebody's face. Love is having a hard conversation.
Didn't it also say that love doesn't boast?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So when we're looking at these, and I'm not saying I'm not knocking anybody because I'll post, hey, this is what I received. But if that's all that I'm doing, what am I really saying to people that this is all love is?
Yeah.
No, love is having a hard conversation. Love is, you know what? I love you so much, so I'm going to be quiet until I'm able to speak to you in a way that won't hurt or kill you.
No, hold on, ma'am. Hold on. See, now you're starting something. So you mean to tell me when when you have the hard conversation with me, and my immediate response to you is that you're supposed to do all things in love, are you trying to say that you are doing it in love?
I'm saying I am doing this in love. That's why we're having this conversation. If I didn't love you, I would just sit there and let you keep doing it.
And the doors of the church are open. I'm just being honest. That
For
you're
real.
spot on. Absolutely.
So when we're looking for this release or this high, it's not even a it's a high. That means you got to stay up so much. That means nobody will ever meet your definition of love if you're not feeling on top of the world all the time.
Mm.
It's not possible. When we get out of line and we're in sin, the Lord loves us enough to chastise us because he is a good father. So if he didn't love us, he wouldn't say anything to us. If we weren't his children, he wouldn't say anything to us. But we get an attitude when we sat in the chair. And I'm speaking from previous experience. We get an attitude when we get sat in the chair. I'm gonna need you to take a time out. I'm gonna need you to reflect on what you just did. And sometimes he'll tell us, not sometimes, but a lot of times he'll tell us, go back and make it right.
I had to turn sideways in my chair. Listen, listen. I took a page out your book. That's right. Listen,
Uh,
hey man, always good to see my brother. Welcome, Ruddy Walker, aka
hey, hey,
Mr. Roland
hey.
Walker, also known as Poor Man's Dr. Phil. He said listen. Roland said he loved us while we were lying, while we cheated, while dirty. Absolutely.
Yes.
That's the concept of that unconditional love. So welcome to the show, brother. Always good to see you. Miss Verlene McCoy, welcome to the show. Natasha Jones, welcome to the show. The Uncle Junior himself, welcome to the show, brother. Always good to see you. You said something, and I kind of want to go back to that because you brought up the concept of chastisement. And I think what we don't understand because we look at it as a form of punishment, right? If a person corrects me, that's punishment. If a person chastises me, that's punishment. What we have to realize is that God is so good. And I want to start by saying that God is so good that within the chastisement is the perfect lesson that you need to learn at said moment. So
Yes.
even in the punishment, your perception of a punishment that is being received, there is a lesson that is in there for your growth and development. But we only see the other side of it, the punishment. Why? Because we're still being led by our emotions. So the more that we get to the point of emotionally regulating ourselves, then the clearer we can identify what I tend to call reality. And a lot of times we struggle with reality simply because unfortunately it's all about the feel good. It's all about the feel good. You're not catering to my needs. You're not making me feel good. So I like the fact that you brought the word chastisement to the conversation because I didn't say it, she did. Um, but I just wanted to kind of add that piece to it because I think you're absolutely right. So as we're progressing along, I want to talk about the different types of love. Now, there are four types of love. However, we're only going to talk about two because I don't want to necessarily get into Greek mythology and all that other great stuff. So, the one that everybody should be completely aware of is agape, right? And so, the definition for agape is the fatherly love of God for human as well as the human reciprocal love for God. We talk a lot about the first part, but we never talk about the second part
Mm-hmm.
because I think for the most part, we don't talk about the second part because we realize that it is difficult for us to achieve. So, the idea I want to give is that it's not a goal to attain, it is a goal to aspire towards. So, we become progressively aware of his love for us because we are trying to reciprocate that love back to him. So the way that you loved God in 2023 looks different than what it looked like in 2013 or what it looked like in
Right.
2003. So that's the concept I want to bring to it. So agape is the reciprocity of the reciprocity of the love that God has for us as we redirect it back to him. Therefore, that adds value to the statement or to the scripture that says we love him because he loved us first. So, that said, the first question under agape is what transformative practices and mindset shifts can we embrace to experience agape in order to deepen our spiritual connection and profoundly impact our lives and the lives of others around us?
That's loaded.
It is. I'm sorry.
Very loaded. But I'm going to say a transformative practice, spending time with the creator who is love. Because the more time that you spend with him, the more he's transforming us from the inside out. And then we're able to show others agape. Then we're able to, you know what? I ain't spend time with the Lord today. Or I gotta get in his presence. I gotta talk to him. This morning at 6:30, I was like, I gotta go talk. I gotta go spend time with the Lord. I need to know that what I'm doing while we're sitting here doing this is what he wants me to do.
Mm,
And I gotta know that I'm doing it as unto the Lord. I'm spending time with him to know what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to act, how I'm supposed to behave, how I'm supposed to treat myself as well as treating others. So I'm definitely gonna say the transformative practice in the mindset is shifted. I like what you said when you said how we love the Lord in 2023 was different in 2013 and 2003. I can clearly say how I thought and loved the Lord in 2003 versus now. Oh no, I'm sold out. I didn't know what I didn't know in 2003, but that came because He started chasing me, and He was chasing me. He was on my heels, and I stopped running. And when I stopped running, and I realized all He was doing was trying to love me and show me, like He was already loving me, but He wanted me to know I love you. This is why this is happening. And then I started changing how I spoke about myself, how I spoke to other people, and how I spoke about other people. And then other people started asking me, how are you able to do that? How are you able? Well, it was God. It wasn't me. I just surrendered. I stopped letting my ego and my flesh tell me, "Oh, you don't need that. You can do this on your own." No, you can't. I can't love anybody on my own. I'm gonna say that right now. I cannot love anyone on my own. I don't possess the strength to do so, but I do know who does. He's taught me how to love people the right way, His way. So when I am upset, when I'm not around them, I'm not talking bad about them. I'm praying for them. I'm not bashing them when, oh, but they didn't do this for me. So I mean, seriously. So, how do we apply it? We allow God to do what He does best. He is love, and He is the perfect image of love. So, why wouldn't we want to learn from Him? That's what's going to transform you, spending time with Him.
Man, listen, that was good. That I mean, it was a lot of good nuggets in there. Um, and I think when we really stop and listen to how you actually depicted it, that says a lot. That like just listening to what you said can literally start me on the in the direction of progressively moving towards Him. I want to say, in conjunction with what you said, I want to say the first thing that we need to do is release the idea of what we think love is so that
That's
we can
it.
accept His. That's the first thing that we need to do because I think that becomes the catalyst to the problem. You got too many people who are combating one another. They're saying love is this and love is that and love is all about what you can do for me and love is this. That's why I despise the idea of love languages. There's only one love language. That's God. That's it.
That's
Has
it.
nothing to do with quality time, has nothing to do with physical touch, has nothing to do with gifts, has none of those things. And so when we hold people accountable to those things, we're already on a downward spiral of failure. So release the idea of what you believe. In other words, remove the fairy tale image that you have in your head of what love should look like and go and adopt His perspective of what love actually is. The Bible says that He is love. So who are we to
Mm,
tell Him that that love is what I want it to be? No, you're wrong. If it doesn't look like His, it's not love. It's like. And again, if you go back and look at some of these, I tend to call them subliminal messages, the message beneath the surface that just keep being thrown at you constantly over time and consistently. Look at social media. Social media moves to the tune of likes. How many people can I get to follow me? How many people can I get to
hmm
like this, like this? So with that being said, hit the like button, by the way. Right. So how many people how many people can I get to like me? Well, in essence, if you really stop and think about it, that's what you think love is in the world. So if they like me, they love me. No, they just like you for the moment. They just like you for what you're doing for them right now. They just like you for what they can get from you. That's really what the truth is. But the question that I ask you, if you were stripped of everything that you have, everything that you can present, like your body didn't even function the way it's supposed to function, will those same people still be around? That's the question I always tend to ask because then you'll realize that in essence, you really only got room in your life for a total of 12 people. And out of those 12, you're only supposed to spend time with three.
Mm,
Those three are the people that you spend a majority of your time with. Go back and look at our example. He had 12, but it was three that he embraced. And it was one that was described as the one that he loved. And I think when we look at that, 1,000 followers, some people don't even know you. Look at how many
mm-mm.
Facebook friends we got. We don't know half those people. I can't
No.
tell you nothing about them. That's the point. So we have to learn to release our concept of what love is so that we can adopt his concept of what authentic love is all about. That's first and foremost. Then we need to, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but we need to humble ourselves, right?
Hmm.
When we humble ourselves and we realize love has nothing to do with what you can do for me, it's all about what I can do for you. It's all about me esteeming you higher than me. It's all
Hmm.
about all of those things that Christ did for people. When people needed Christ, he went to them. He didn't make them come to him. I'm,
Say it again.
when people needed Christ, he went to them. And he couldn't jump in his Cadillac back then. He was on foot.
Okay.
So that's
Pat
those
and
are
Turner.
Pat and Turner, absolutely. So we need to understand those things because a lot of times what we do is we make people bend to our will, when in essence the only will that should
Mm.
ever matter to us is his will. The Bible says that God holds himself subject to I'm sorry, he holds himself subject he does all things according to the counsel of his own will. Well, when you go back and look at Christ, Christ said, I do nothing except for what I see my Father do. So, in other words, Christ held himself to the counsel of his own will. So, we should hold ourselves to the counsel of his will.
Hmm.
Then we can get to the point of rooting all of that bad teaching out. I can't stress that enough. There's a lot of bad teaching that existed from some people, and they just didn't know. That's okay. It's not for us to demonize them, it's not for us to chastise them. They didn't know. They passed along some things that they thought, they passed along some things that they knew. So, what we have to do, and I mentioned it last night, we have to go through the cycle of what is known as learning, unlearning, and relearning. You relearn His will, not the stuff that, that was taught back then in a different facet. No, His will, only His will. Then we exercise it, right? We practice it. We get it wrong. He corrects us, sometimes through people. Then we
Hmm.
practice it again. We get it better. We do better than before. But again, we keep practicing His will, not my will, and all of those things. And that changes the perspective. So I think that's the key that we have to go back and understand. We have to move at His speed. We have to stay in step with the Spirit because the only way we get access to his love is by his spirit.
I have to say two things. One thing, we've all heard the term practice makes perfect. It does not. Practice makes progress. As we continue to practice, we progress towards what we're supposed to be doing. We will never be perfect. There's only one person that was perfect, and that was Jesus. So that saying that we've heard, practice makes perfect, we beat ourselves up because we're continually looking for perfection. We got to be perfect. It's not going to happen. Practice makes progress. Two, when you said something about we want all the likes and stuff like that, I'm going to use this. This is transparency. In this journey of being chased down by the Lord, I would at times, and this has been a few years, I'm a few years removed, where he was teaching me what love really was. I was looking for the likes on Facebook and Instagram. And it would be times I'd be like, oh, I know this is about to be good. I'm about to post this. And nobody would like it. And then I was like, okay, Lord, what is this about? And it was him teaching me, stop looking for validation from humans when I validated you at birth. We don't need to be validated. It's nice, but that's not a necessity. We get our validation from the one who created us when he breathed life into us. So if you think that the love comes from the likes, it comes from the reposts, or it comes from, oh, girl, you look good today. You got to know who you are outside of that. But how do we know who we are if we don't know where we came from? I mean, you could go back months. We talked about identity, but this too, what does your love identity say? What does that say about you? What do you even know what it is? So in this process, that's how, I mean, it was for real. Sure enough, I'm gonna sit her down. I'm gonna hide her in plain sight. She's gonna be looking for people to validate. She'll be looking for love from people. She's not gonna get it. She's gonna have to come back to me.
Mm.
And I came back every time. Like, so if I post something today and it don't bother me. But at a time, I was distraught
Mm,
because the intent behind it, it wasn't real. It was faulty. It was
right.
flawed. His love is not. Is the purest of all kind. It is
Absolutely.
the only one.
Absolutely. Isn't that a song they made about that years ago? Looking for love in all the wrong places.
All the wrong places.
I love it. I love it. Look, I want to grab some of these comments in the chats, man, because again, you guys are always on point, and I greatly appreciate the value that you add to these conversations. Um, so Cassandra said we must always be open with our relationships with the Lord. We must show Him reverence as we grow within Him. We must show others the growth within us in order to bring them into the love of God. Absolutely. I agree
Okay.
with that 100%.
Okay. You in it today again. I see you.
But she said she came in ready to run.
Okay.
She got her track
Let's
shoes
run
on.
then.
I love it. My brother, Roland Walker, poor man's Dr. Phil, he said he merely shows us how much of a better option he is than what we currently have or will have without him. Man, spot on.
That
Spot on. That's what he does. That's what he does. Poor
wow.
man, Dr. Phil, right?
Wow.
But that's a true statement.
That is so good. He
Absolutely.
merely shows us how much of a better option he is than what you currently have or will have without him.
Absolutely.
Sir, sir, pass the collection plates. Please,
That's what he
please.
does.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Because we're looking for God in people
Hmm.
instead of looking to God to be who he is.
Say that part again, please, ma'am.
We're looking for God in people instead of looking for God for who he is.
Hmm.
We're making people our gods, but we're making them our idols. And we're not supposed to do that.
Hmm.
And we're thinking, oh, and you know what? This is why people jump from relationship to relationship. They looking for something that will never be fulfilled. Never.
She said it. She said it.
Sir, did
They,
you
they don't
pass the plate yet?
they don't have the capacity to fulfill it. That's the
They
issue.
don't. It's not possible.
I love
We
it.
gotta. I love this conversation.
Hmm.
I love this conversation.
Yes, ma'am. All right, let's move on to Miss Natasha Jones, who always add value, and I greatly appreciate her. She says transformative practices, being intentional in our acts of praying, worship, spending time in the Word to achieve a goal we are seeking with is to have a closer and more intimate relationship with God. Absolutely. We
Yes.
cannot claim that we have a relationship with someone we don't ever spend time with. And the one person that we should spend more time with should be Him. But the issue is that we expect the response that identifies that we spend more time with him, but we may give him about 30 minutes of a day.
Mm,
It doesn't make sense. The reframing and shifting of our mindset to allow with what God says love is not what we feel love is. Absolutely.
yes.
In fact, it's going to be uncomfortable.
Very.
Yes. It may even put you, thank you so much for saying that. It may even put you in the fetal position while you crying and snotting and tearing up and all that great stuff.
I done been in my closet, y'all, crying in the fetal position because I wanted to lay hands. I wanted the fivefold ministry to be real. But I went and I spent time with the Lord. And as I was crying, y'all, he was saying, don't worry about it.
Did y'all
I
see
got
that?
it.
Did y'all see
Don't
that?
worry about it.
Anita
I
got some
did.
big old hands. It looked like
I
she can grip
do.
a basketball, don't she?
Listen, I used to fight back in the day. But I'm fighting for the Lord now.
Girl, gangster. Y'all better watch it. Y'all better watch it. Yes, to the good pleasure of his will. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's my main man. I love it. Michelle Ray, we greatly appreciate you, and amen is the perfect response. All right, question. Would you say it is all bad teachings or outdated teachings? I don't know if I want to make sure. Is that a conjunction? Well, we'll respond as well. Anita, you first.
Say it was uneducated teaching
Mm,
because those who taught us weren't educated in what God's perspective of love was. So they taught us what they knew. They were uneducated. It's like you going into a classroom, teacher's not prepared, but they trying to teach you something that they don't even know.
yeah.
I would say it was uneducated teaching.
Mm, I like that. I think my response is in conjunction with what she said. Um, because I remember the hellfire and brimstone days, right? But what I also
Mm-hmm.
realized is that the Bible, pretty much for the most part, is consistent. It probably looks the exact same thing, like look the exact same way when I was younger, as it does right now. So hellfire and brimstone was a teaching that existed, but grace was also a teaching that should have existed.
Yes.
Faith in Christ should have been a teaching that existed, and through the faith that we have in Christ, we have access to that grace. So that should have been a teaching that should have been existed back then as well. So bad teachings, yes. Outdated teachings, yes. Because I will say that it was available back then as well. Everything that is available now was available back then, but I think what you understand, and I know Roland's probably beating up the chat right now as we say this, you probably seen a progressive nature of a people in awareness of his grace, in awareness of his will. So back then, based upon their current mindset, what they were coming out of, they taught this. It was still
Mm-hmm.
within the scope of the scripture, but it was taught through the lens of their experiences. And so as
Right.
we progress, we realize that our experience, even though there are lessons found in our experience isn't complete. That's why I started with 1 Corinthians 13 verses 9 through 13 really brings. See, I knew it. I told you. Um, being that our awareness is only partial at best, so we can't assume that what we know is the complete picture. We
Mm-hmm.
have to remain humble so that he can constantly reveal himself to us progressively throughout time. So great question, Natasha, and I hope that we
Yes.
actually answered it. um, Man, you guys are amazing in the chats. Um, we got to move. We got to move on. Look at keep adding value. keep,
Right.
keep adding value because you guys are awesome. I love it. I love it. Next question is what? Oh, I'm sorry. So the next point is philia. And so again, philia, for those who are unaware, is kind of like the pre word for the term or for the city Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is considered the city of brotherly love. Therefore, philia, the definition of it is to show warm affection in an intimate friendship. This is the expression of brotherly love from person to person. This goes back and codifies the scripture, right? When he talks about the two greatest commandments: love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and love thy neighbor as thyself.
So,
So, as we move forward with this question, how can we delve deeper into the essence of philia, cultivating authentic, meaningful relationships, and fostering an environment of mutual support?
mm, like we're doing right now. This is what we're doing. We're having a conversation. It's not an easy conversation, but it's a necessary conversation. And we're extending grace and humility. I don't know everything that happened to you in your childhood. You shared some things. You don't know everything that happened in my childhood. I've shared some things, but we're coming together so we can move forward as a society. We're setting aside our differences for the greater good because it's not about us. We're not, and I like to say, we have to stop making generational decisions based off of temporary emotions. Now, I want to be okay.
Please say that again because I like it. Please say that again, please.
We have to stop making generational decisions based off of temporary emotions.
Man, I wish I had my pen.
It's not, it's bigger than us. So if we could sit down and have a conversation without internally thinking, he don't know what he's talking about.
Mm,
He just saying this is no, 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 no. Just sit. Just sit and listen. And then speak. Don't come in with your preconceived notions.
mm,
We all are, I know me, I know you, we trying to get to heaven. I don't want to go to hell. It's getting hotter every day. So because I know that eternity is waiting, whether it's good with the Father or it ain't and it's in hell, I'm pressing towards the mark. So that means that I got to set aside my own ideas that are wrong because of what I was taught for the generations that are coming after us so they can continue to move this thing forward for the kingdom. We all got a part on the wall, y'all. We all got a part. Play your part. Stand on it. Know who the Lord said you are. And that's the difference. When you know who He says you are, you don't have to compete with your brother and sister because what's for coach is for coach. And I can't have that. What's for Onita is for Onita. And coach can't have that. We all have a part to play. We are here to help one another to move forward. And if we can't sit down like we're doing now without preconceived notions, without manipulation, and be our authentic self, again, if you haven't, go back, find out where your identity comes from, because we did talk about that. Um, and then catch back up. We know who we are. That's why we can have this conversation and not be upset about. Okay, I see what you're saying. I agree. You know what, I didn't know that. Let me put that in my toolkit because I want to continue to grow and I want those around me to grow. I want the meaningful relationships that he's talking about. I want to see people growing around me. I don't want to be stuck in a place and be stagnant because if you're not growing, you're dying.
Hmm. Let me fan the flames, y'all. I got to fan the flames because she's on fire. I'm still stuck on that statement. I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
Okay.
Okay, can you?
So, well, I can. I mean, because I said
Okay.
I
Well,
all the time.
I know sometimes the words that we speak come from the spirit, so sometimes
You
I can't
do.
right. So I just
That's
wanted to
why I go
keep.
back. But we have to, and that's where it came from. One day I was literally sitting and I was upset. Now, this is recent. This is within like the last 3 months.
Mm-hmm,
And I was emotional.
mm,
And I wanted to do something based off of my emotion.
mm,
And I heard you cannot make generational decisions based off of temporary emotions. And I
mm,
got myself together
mm,
because after I leave here, after you leave here, there's generations that are coming that are being raised up right now. What I do today based off of an emotional decision will affect, and it's a ripple effect
mm-hmm,
for the generations that are coming, all because I couldn't get myself together.
mm.
No, absolutely not. So we cannot make generational decisions. We can't afford to make generational decisions based off of temporary emotions.
Man, I love it. I wanted to hear it again because I think that is so profound. And I think when we take a look at the entirety, when we look across the spectrum of society today, you're seeing the results of that.
Hmm.
You're seeing what happens when we make generational decisions based upon temporary emotions. Good,
Yes.
good, bad, or indifferent. It doesn't matter. The truth don't care what you feel about it. It is still the truth. But the same
Today,
can
tomorrow, and next year.
right. But the same can be said about a lie. So you can tell a lie all day long. It don't really care how anybody feel about it. It's still a lie, and it is a word that will permeate. And
Hmm.
what you don't realize is those words have lasting effects. So
Yes.
that's why I wanted you to repeat that. At one point in time, there was a campaign, and I thought it was an amazing campaign. What would Jesus do? Right? And what
Hmm.
it did is it put people in the conscious awareness of what he did in the scriptures. Now, for you to understand what Jesus do, you had to go back and read what Jesus did.
Right.
Let me say it again.
I
For
like
you
that.
to understand what Jesus do, you had to go back and read what he actually did. And what I tend to say is one of the most profound statements that we gloss over and don't really take a lot into is he said, I do nothing except that what I see my father do. So again, what would Jesus do? That in which he see his father do. Therefore, when we go back, we can assume that Jesus did the same thing that his fathers did. Therefore, we do what he do. And if we do what he did, then there's no way we can demonize, demoralize, we can segregate, we can oppress. We can't do any of those things because it wasn't what he did.
Right.
Sure, he chastised, he corrected, he taught, he cultivated, he uplifted, he edified, but all of that was in the direction of the glory of God. So when you understand that, then you actually do it for the sake of someone else for
Mhm.
his glory. So I won't be jealous of what Anita is doing. In fact, I go to Anita and say, how can I help you do what you're doing? That's what it looks like. So jealousy goes out the door.
Right.
Envy goes out the door. Why? Because it doesn't have room. We got room for uplifting. We got room for edifying. We got room for cultivation. We got room for love. That's what it
Mhm.
is. So when we look at it from that perspective, that changes everything. It changes everything because I'm not trying to inject me in your space. Let me say it again. I'm not trying to inject me in your space. I see what you got. I want
Mhm.
that. I should have gotten that. Why didn't I get that? So, parents, you can't look at your kids and say, just because my kids is where they are, I should have done that and have a degree. Don't, I'm saying that. Don't think it don't happen because you have some parents who are jealous because of their kids are thriving, but they didn't thrive. But you
Mm.
don't even realize that your child is thriving because of the things you've been through.
Hello.
You were the reason why they're thriving.
Hello.
You can't look at past relationships and seeing that they are thriving and say, "I was supposed to be a part of that relationship. Therefore, I'm upset. I'm disappointed. I'm angry."
Mm.
But that person's life at that point is a culminating effect. They would not have been there if it wasn't for their experience with you. I got it. It don't
Right.
feel good, but it is what it is. What did you learn from the relationship? I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Again, again,
Keep going. No, no, no.
I'm,
You on the road.
but I'm just being honest. What did you learn from the relationship? Maybe that person learned their lesson, but you're still stuck in the feeling and missed the lesson. That's the part. So we have to get to the point of cultivating authentic, meaningful relationships, not the superficial feel good relationships. The superficial feel good relationships are meaningless.
Mm.
I talked about it maybe about 3, 4 weeks ago. We talked about Aristotle's perspective of three different types of relationships, right? And so when you look at those three different types of relationship, there's only one that's meaningful, and
Mm.
that's the relationship that actually has a depth and breadth which actually pursues him. It
Mm.
is focused on those things, not so much of living your best life.
No.
Where are we going this weekend, Onita? Nobody cares. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
I apologize. I'm just being honest.
Oh, that's good. You
Those
you you spot on though. You are spot on.
right. And ultimately, these relationships combined, right? One to 20 is activate. These relationships combined are better for the environment.
Yes.
That's the key. When we come together, when we bond together for his purpose, what we do is we paint a picture for the younger generation to see. We paint a picture for the kids to see. So
Mhm.
when kids seeing mama and daddy who actually understand what love is, not the manipulation type of love that is taught, then they become healthier versions of that teaching. It
Yes.
is it's still teaching from the father, but they become healthier versions of that teaching. So they get to the point where they can harness meaningful relationships at a young age. That's the key. They'll do it before we did it. It may have taken us about 30, 40 years to get there, but that's okay.
Mhm.
They'll get it about 20, 20, 25 years. Why?
Right.
Because they
Right.
see it. They grew up in it. It became part of their garden, the
Mhm.
Garden of Eden, which no one can find still yet today. Anyway, um, so when we start, that's a whole nother conversation. So when we start talking about fostering an environment of mutual support, that's what relationship is. It's no
Mhm.
combativeness. Oh yeah, by the way, intimate relationship starts off as philia.
Yeah.
I want to make
Yes.
sure I want to make sure I say that first. Intimate
Mhm.
relationship starts off as brotherly love.
Because how are you going to be intimate with somebody you don't even want to sit down with and have an authentic conversation? Are you kidding me? What, sir? I like
Exactly.
I, sir. This right here. When
Well,
you listen, okay. You said, why are we jealous of one another? I like what you said. Instead of competing or trying to compete, why don't you say, hey, I see that you're doing X, Y, and Z. How can I help you?
Right.
Well, then that person's gonna sit down. It's like you become their mentee. Let me show you what I did. Let me show you this, this, this. And is it that they're really the people who don't want to do that, who are saying, look at him, doctor, look at her, you know? And it's like, are you really mad at me that I decided to sit down and get before the Father and find out who I was and what was promised to me?
Mm,
So, are you really mad at me or are you mad at him?
exactly.
Let's figure it out because you're not really mad at me. You mad at him. But then let's take it a step further. You're really mad at yourself that you didn't take the time to sit down and find out who you are, who he said you were, what love is, what was promised to you, what your future holds. He said that he knows the plans. Okay, well, do the work.
Mm,
Nobody said it was going to be easy. Doable. You
abs-
seeing us sitting here right now. It's doable. So don't be mad at us
yeah,
that we sat and we did the work. We're doing the work. We're fostering a positive environment.
absolutely.
Use the
Absolutely.
word here.
Yeah. We could be out doing some other stuff today. We could be out, at the park doing whatever it is we do in
Like you
our
said, what are we doing this weekend?
right, exactly. Did you see the shimmy? My bad. I'm sorry. I'm acting up. Listen, the available man. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't say it right. The available man. Welcome to the show, brother. Always good to see you. You got to say it that way because if you don't, you miss the whole point. Listen, man, you guys are amazing. I see what you're doing in the chat, but I was just informed that we are coming up on an hour, and man, we are like almost halfway. We're almost
Man,
halfway through. So, I want to jump on a real important piece here because I think this brings a lot of things to perspective, and I call it the C.A.R principle. This is practical application. So, if you're with us, you might want to, if you haven't already, you might want to start writing this piece down because I think this is important. And so, the C.A.R principle consists of three things. First and foremost, the C stands for commitment, the A stands for appreciation, and the R actually stands for responsibility. Now, jumping back up to commitment, the thing is, and I talked about this last night. So commitment is actually your buy into whatever it is you is. You see it a lot in the working environment. So when you first get a job, you're trying to do the best job that you can according to your job description. There's a lot of anxiety there. There's a lot of comparison that exists. You're looking at how somebody else do a thing, and so you may try to do it like that or whatever. So you're doing what we call compliance. You're being in compliant to your job description. You don't get to the point of commitment until you have a good understanding of your job description, you're exercising your job description, and now you're more focused on the vision, the mission of the organization. So commitment to me is where you're going to see people start working together, people start connecting with one another, people start caring about one another. And so you're going to get to the higher versions of what we know to be the team development cycle, right? And so you see this in the Bible as well. If I could break it down and make it simple, the Old Testament is compliance, the New Testament is commitment, right? Even though I can show you in the Old Testament where commitment took place, but man did not make the commitment, the Father made the commitment.
mm-hmm.
So, what we have to understand, you must be compliant to His word so that you can be committed to Him. I'm gonna say that again. You must be compliant to His word so that you can be committed to Him. So, under the idea of commitment, the question that I want to bring to the table is what should be the nature and depth of our commitment to understanding, embracing, and actively practicing the various forms of love in our lives.
Mm. What should be the nature and depth of our commitment to understanding, embracing, and actively practicing the various forms of love in our lives? Ooh, so I'm gonna say, why do we have various forms of love? But okay, um, I I have to practice what the Lord said. I know that I there are various love or forms of love. I have love for my daughters. I have a love for for my sister, and it is different because they are my daughters versus this is my sister. But how I love totality is the same. How I express it is the same. How I show it is the same. But the nature of it, the depth of it's got to come from the Father.
Absolutely.
It just has to. And I'm committed. I am committed.
Yeah.
It's not my ego. It's not how I feel today. It's not what am I going to get out of it. It's not about what I can get, but what I can give. So the depth of it, when people meet you initially, I think you had told me the story a couple of months ago. You had met a young man outside of a store, and he said normally he wouldn't talk to somebody, but just in that few minutes of time, his whole perspective shifted because of that conversation.
Yeah.
You showed him love to for brotherly love to a stranger is because you've been committed to doing what you're doing right now, to change the narrative, to change the perspective of everybody that comes and they sit and they listen, they watch, they hit the replays. We're constantly practicing. This is active practicing right now. This is commitment. Everybody that comes and listens monthly or they replay, that's commitment. How do we go deeper and apply that to love? If you could commit to a job, you could commit to sitting and reading the word,
Absolutely.
to knowing what love really is. So the nature and depth of our commitment, we only gonna go as far as our commitment.
Right.
You can't me going to the gym. I go to the gym at least 4 times a week, minimal. I'm committed to that. But I also know that if I'm committed to it, I'm gonna see change. Let's commit to spending time with the Lord so he can start changing us. And then we can be a change in the environment that we're in. So however far we go is dependent on, I would say, is dependent on our commitment. Are you willing to understand? Are you willing to embrace when you're wrong? And then are you willing to actively practice? Let me go out today. Okay, the Lord told me to go here today, but I don't want to go. He needs you to go because he's trying to get you to understand what he sounds like versus what everybody else sounds like.
Right.
So, me personally, I have to go back to the word. That's the nature and depth of it. If I don't read the Bible, I don't get nothing out of it. That's the blueprint.
That's the blueprint. I love it. I think for me, this particular question is all about going back and reflecting on Christ, right? So, the most profound example of agape that we understand is the work that Christ did on the cross. Therefore, I have an inherent responsibility to be sacrificial consistently unto Him, unto His word, unto His nature, so that His spirit can actually dwell within me, so that He can
Mm-hmm.
channel His love to me and through me, so that He can channel His patience and peace and His compassion to me and through me. So I must learn to put on the full armor of God. I say that because it is an active thing. I participate with him. When God created Adam, he said, this man should not be alone. And if you notice what happened at that point, God and Adam participated in the creative process.
Mm-hmm.
That's your calling. You are supposed to be participating with him, not fighting against him. When you don't listen to him, you fight against him. Fighting
Mm.
against him is not necessarily the gateway to which his love can flow through. It is a barrier that actually rejects his love from flowing through. So you will stop his love at the door, and then you will actually exercise what you believe to be love and claiming that you actually love God. That does not make logical sense. I think that's important to understand. So when we look at our commitment must be to understanding. You stand under the word of God because you submit to
Mm.
his will. When you stand under the word of God and submit to his will, you embrace his principles, you embrace his practices, you embrace his teachings, and then you actively practice that in which you participate. The various forms of love is agape, first and foremost. Agape, it's reciprocity, give take between. It's like the greatest love dance you're ever going to see. You know,
Goodness.
he's leading, I'm following. He's leading, I'm following. So we're going back and forth, and it is a sweet smelling smoke unto him. And then from me to you, you experience brotherly love. That is the only way it happens. Because outside of that, it becomes something self-centered. It becomes something selfish. So the dance that me and the Father do actually becomes the gateway to what you experience.
Sir, that is, I know that came from the spirit. I know it did.
Hmm.
It's too much right there that you just said that I ain't gonna ask you to repeat, but I'm gonna need y'all from the fact he said if you ain't working with him, you fighting against him. The dance, sir, sir,
Yes.
my mind is doing all types of things right now. I'm not kidding. I
Michelle Ray
can't
says
even
she threw
sit
her chair.
still. Okay, I cannot sit still right now.
Mm.
I don't know.
But that's just the C. That's just commitment within itself.
Mm,
I think that's the thing that we have to understand. That is the commitment level. That's the level of commitment that we must actually embrace. If we do not accept the commitment that he offers to us, he offers it. That's the funny part about it. He offers it. It is your choice to take it. But
yes.
if you don't take it, then the sad part about it is that you're going to try to do it your way. And you are, yes, I am sweating, Michelle. I am. If you don't accept it, you're going to do it your way. And you're going to go through frustration. You're going to go through you're going to go through just all types of just anxiety simply because you're trying to manipulate the thing to be as you want it to be, wanting the outcome to be what he said it's going to be, and it doesn't make sense. It's like me ordering something from Amazon. I got to put it together, but I take the instructions and throw it away and say, I'm going to figure this out on my own. And I got the
Mm.
leg up here and the body. It doesn't even add up. It doesn't make sense.
What I'm, in other words, it's lust of the flesh
Mm,
because we want what we want,
mm,
or we praying to miss. Okay,
mm.
so we want to do it our way.
Absolutely.
We want Jesus to sprinkle a little holy water on that.
And
He
bless
ain't
it.
doing that.
I
Yes,
want you to, I want you to bless my foolishness.
yes. And he like, no, I'm not doing that. I didn't tell you to do that.
Mm,
What I look like compromising my character in order to make you feel good? No,
yeah.
sir, sir.
Yes.
I don't even,
I'm
I don't
sorry.
even know what they're saying in the chat, but I know they're going off. I
Michelle
know
Ray
they
says she
are.
threw her chair. I thought that was funny right there. Well, I don't know. I don't know why she throwing the chair over there, but I hope she didn't break it. I hope it didn't break. I
Go
hope it
back
didn't
and
break.
you look at that. You probably throw your chair too.
Mm, I probably would. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving because we are breaking through some things right here. So
Yes.
next is the A for appreciation. And again, I believe appreciation is one of the best things, most empowering things that we can do. We have to learn how to do more appreciating and less
Mm-hmm.
judging. We have to learn to do more appreciating and less judging, right?
Yes.
Whatever the thing is, it is what it is. Thank God for it. I thank God for every relationship that I've been in that did not work. I
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot that he wanted to teach me about me. I don't necessarily judge them. I don't necessarily chastise them or any of those things. I am appreciative of the lessons that I have learned. So the next question under appreciation, or the question under appreciation, is how can we heighten our awareness and mindfulness in order to truly recognize and appreciate the presence of love in its various forms?
Showing humility, for one, not thinking that we are better than the next person because we don't know what it took for you to smile today. I don't know what you went through last night.
Mm.
I don't know how your week was. So how can I show you that I care? Well, I can stop prejudging you. I can stop trying to make you into this image and this idol that you are not to be to me. I can accept you as a child of the most high God. I can accept you as my brother in Christ, knowing that you're working out your own salvation as I'm to be working out mine too.
Yeah.
I'm heightening my awareness to know that I'm not better than you. I'm not better than you. I was not made better than you. I am who he made me to be, and that's okay. I'm not focusing on what I don't have, because if it's mine, nobody can have what belongs to me. So if there is humility there, there's no animosity, there's no jealousy there. I'm just coming to you as a person who really wants you to do well, who wants to see you thriving, wants to see you healed, wants to see you, in positive light. Then I can truly love you
Yeah.
for who you are, not who I want you to be.
Absolutely. I love that. I think in conjunction with that, for me, I believe we can heighten our awareness by realizing that we have an arrogant nature.
Mm,
Once we realize that we have an arrogant nature, then we're constantly in tune so that we can release all forms of arrogance. I don't have the entirety of the answer. I only have a portion of the answer. Onita has a portion of the answer. Roland has a portion of the answer. Tawame has a portion of the answer. Michelle has a portion of the answer. And when we come together as a community, he is in the midst. Oh my, that sounds like a scripture.
yes.
Wherever two or more are gathered in my name, I am in the midst. That's what it's all about. So if I stop trying to stand on a pedestal and get off the pedestal and just recognize that I am a part of the community, then God can actually sit on the throne in our community. That's
Mm,
the issue that I've become aware of. Too many people want to be important. You're not that important. I'm sorry. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I still love you, but you're not that important. Stop trying to be important. Learn to appreciate the people around you. Learn to uplift somebody else other than yourself. Learn
mm-hmm,
to stop talking about you and ask people about them, right? Because
mm,
those people would be more welcoming of who you are as opposed to running from you because they feel like the first 5 minutes of the conversation is going to be about you. That's
mm,
the key. Like, be that vessel to where the Lord can attract people to you. And when you can get to that point, it's not that He attracts them to you so you can talk about you, He attracts them to you so you can talk about Him.
mm-hmm,
That's the key. So when we understand that, again, that goes back to the dance, right? When we understand that, now we all got our own dance going on. And guess who gets glorified in the midst of the community? The Father,
yes.
because it is all about Him. And I think that's probably, in my opinion, the most profound way to look at it. I am going to skip the next question and move on to responsibility because I think we already answered that question. And so, responsibility in its rawest form is just assuming, just actually assuming taking on the form of what we are, what He has bestowed upon us, what He has given you. We now steward that thing, and so it's
Mm-hmm,
not that I, just take care of it. No, I not only take care of it, but I leave it better than I found it. Let me say
yes.
that part again. That's what stewardship is. It's not just taking care of it, but I leave it better than I found it. So within the scope of the workplace, whatever you fell on, your job is not just to do the job, but make the job better. So if it takes you to go to your supervisor and say, "Hey, can we look at this process because I think I may have a better way of doing this process," after being in the process for a period of time and seeing how it works. That's the key. Not beforehand, not just because you just got there, but after being in the process for a period of time and seeing how it works. So now you and the supervisor are working together. Notice I keep doing this sway
Mm-hmm,
back and forth because it's symbiotic, right? So now you and the supervisor are working together for the greater good of the organization, just like you and the father works together for the greater good of the community. And that's what I think responsibility looks like. So with that being said, how can we embody and practice love in our responsibility? And what actions can we take to fulfill these obligations to foster a compassionate and harmonious world for ourselves and generations to come?
I like this question. And you answered it earlier. You said we have to set aside our perception of what love is and take on what he says, what God says it is. So if we can, that's to me, that's how we embody and practice love. We set aside what we thought it was and embody what it actually is. Then we're showing those in the community, oh, this is what love looks like. And of course, it's going to feel different. It's like a new pair of jeans that you ain't stretched out yet. They don't have the bow in the leg like you have. It takes some time after you've worn them, and then they start to fit better. So this whole new concept or this whole new perspective of what love really is, yeah, it may not feel like what you learned, but this is the real part of it. This is what love really is. So as you practice it, it becomes second nature. People, oh, here comes coach, man. I can't wait for him to come on. You know, he always got something for us. They're looking for you because they know what you carry, because you've expressed it in how you act, how you talk, how you walk, everything that you put your hands to. You put your hands to the plow, you're going to get a harvest.
Mm,
So harvest love, harvest the love that he is giving us. And if we harvest it, there's plenty to give. And the thing about God is we can never exhaust him. Like coach was saying, he's doing a dance with him, he's doing a dance with me, he's doing a dance over here with Roland. It's enough dances for us all. We could never exhaust him, but we can't be that for everybody.
mm,
But we can show love. That's not exhaustible. Love is not exhaust. If it's real love, it's not exhaustible
mm.
because it's coming from the one who is love. So
Absolutely.
that's how we foster this compassionate and harmonizing the world. We are his image. We're walking in it. And if there's so many of us, so many lights, somebody who is in a dark spot, they're gonna see us like, I need to get to that person. And we're gonna know that the Lord sent them to us for us to pour into them, to show them who he is. And then
Mm,
they become a part of the community and we just continue to move forward.
absolutely. I love that. I really do. I want to start off by saying it's not what comes out of a person's mouth that defiles. I'm sorry, it's not what goes in a person's mouth that defiles them. It's what comes out. So, in other words, what is within must come out. And
Mm-hmm.
if that which comes out it belongs to the Father, it came from the Father, then it will come out as it came from the Father. I think when we look at it from that perspective, that changes everything. It is my responsibility to nurture this relationship with my Father. This is why it is my responsibility to recognize I am only obligated to the Father.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that part again because I know a lot of people don't like it. My only responsibility is to the Father. He gave me some commandments. You might be the recipient of said commandment, but my responsibility is to the Father. If I am following His word and submitting myself to His word, you receive the fruits of it. It must
Mm-hmm.
work that way. So when we look at how can we embody, we recognize that I don't stretch myself thin for people. I stretch myself thin for Him and Him alone. Therefore, it doesn't even feel like I'm stretching myself thin.
Nope.
It's all about me submitting to His will. Practicing love becomes easy because I'm submitting to His will. I'm submitting to His word. So it's not about, oh, I got to run over here and do this. Oh, I got to run over here and do that. Oh, I got to run over here and do that. No, stop that. You're running yourself ragged because you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
do it in the flesh. Get out of your ego. That's your ego talking. Because when I do that, it's only because I'm trying to feel important. I got to go over here and help my brother Roland out. You know what I'm saying? Because I want Roland to praise me. No, if I'm doing it as unto him, which is what the word says, then it brings me joy to show up for Roland when he needs me, and
Right.
it's not tiresome. I can't. I like. Thank you for saying what you said. By the way, I don't want to. I didn't want to unnotice that. I didn't want to not notice that. But anybody who knows me know that I receive a great deal of energy every time I hit the live button. I can't even explain where it comes from. I can even be tired. You can look at my eyes sometimes and see my eyes are red. But when I hit live, I'm excited. And I have to say I have to calm down because I get to flowing. And when I get to
Hmm.
flowing, it just comes out real fast simply because I'm excited. I
It's
know where it
authentic.
comes from. It's authentic. I know where it comes from. I know who it comes from. It's not because of me, because my body might be tired. But the
Hmm.
thing of the matter is, it's from Him for you. So I don't have time to be tired in that moment. I don't have time to focus on myself in that moment. I only have time to submit. And if I submit to that in which I told him that I would be responsible for, which is in turn the calling that he said that this is what I got specifically for you to do.
Hmm.
When I submit to that, then he provides for that.
Yes.
Let me say it again. When I submit to that, he provides for that. Too many times we get caught up in the wrong mindset. Do, do, and do. I need to do this. I need to do that. No, that's wrong. That's the lowest version of yourself.
Mm.
I want to say that part again. If you limit yourself, this is why I refuse to let anybody limit me to just providing and protecting. Get thee behind me, Satan. I ain't got time for that. I am far more than just provision and protection because I am a reflection of my Father. And if I'm a reflection of my Father in heaven, everything that Jesus Christ did, I know that I am capable. The only thing that prevents me from submitting to that sort of power is this thing that we call limiting beliefs.
Mm.
So when we understand that, we go back to his words. And his word says that when you pray, believe.
Hmm.
So that's the part that we have to understand. When we look at it from that perspective, it makes it easier to fulfill these obligations to foster a compassionate or harmonious world. Why? Because it's not about me, it's about Him for you. And if we look at it and do it from that perspective, relationships become authentic. They become more compassionate. They become more understanding. It's not about the five different love languages. It's not about you providing and you spending quality time. No, that's foolishness. Stop that. Great book though, but stop that. Ain't got nothing to do with it. I don't care how much you try to tie it to it. What's the other book? Think of what? I'm sorry. These are personal opinions, by the way. What is it? Think like a what is it? Think like a
Think Like a
man.
Man
Yeah, okay. Two thumbs down.
by Steve Harvey.
Yeah, two thumbs down.
Well, the one that I got signed because I stood in that line to get it.
Go, listen, 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 listen. Going in the backyard, going in the backyard and build you a fire. Use that to start it. I'm just saying. I mean, listen. I love these people though. Anybody, I love all people. Just to be honest with you, but we have to test the spirit by the spirit. And when you look at the spirit of a thing, does it line up with the true spirit or does it line up with a spirit? Because a spirit is going to pull you away from the spirit, and the spirit is the spirit of authenticity and creativity.
Nothing that the Lord will tell us to do that He hasn't provided the means for us to complete. That's what you just said. For everybody else who, if it went over your head, He just said that in Barney style. Anything that He's asked you to do, whether it's to come on here monthly, weekly, for some, He's already provided the energy. He's provided the creativity. He's provided everything. He's not going to ask us to do anything that He hasn't already provided a way for.
Absolutely. He don't call the equipped, he equipped the called.
Okay, and it don't matter if your resume is lacking. He always supersedes what man says every time.
And that's what
He's
makes him
he
God.
shakes the table.
There you go. Yes, indeed. Listen. I so love you guys. Everybody in the chat, man. I'm looking at you, and I apologize to each and every one of you because you guys are laying straight fire in the chat. Angel Face, welcome to the show. You
Hey
came on a
sis.
while ago, but I missed you. Um, Natasha, of course, you're doing your thing. Miss Verlene McCoy, I see you. I just apologize because this has been a filled conversation, and we're at the point where it's time for us to dive into our final thoughts. And of course, because Miss Onita V brings such great value to this conversation, she gets to go first. So, with that
Oh,
being said, there you go.
we went through a lot today, y'all. I mean, it was jam packed. It was full of wisdom. It was full of enlightenment. But some things that really stuck out was when we're not accepting what God has for us, we're fighting against Him. He wants to love us. It's not that He wants to, He does love us. But it's up to us to accept the love. And if we don't accept it, we're fighting against it. So we're fighting against that love that He has freely given to us. How can we go out in society and show what pure love really is, as the Father has defined it to be? Get in agreement to what the Lord has said, who you are, who He is, what He needs you to do. Study, show yourself approved, and then go out and foster positive relationships with what you've learned today. Well, what you've learned, this is part two. You need to go back and look at part one. But definitely, there's enough God for all of us. There's enough of His love for all of us to be filled. And I want you to sit with that. There's enough of God's love for each and every one of us to be filled up. And as we're filled, then we can start to fill others, to show them where we got it from. God is love, and I aspire and continue to aspire to practice what He said in His word. How to love myself so I can love others better. I hope that this was, you know, as good as it was for me, that it is for you. I feel filled up, like I'm ready to go outside and show some people some love in a different way. I learned today, and I'm just so excited about what is going on right now. There is a change. We're not accepting what society has said love is. We are setting aside our own perspective of what we thought love was, and we are embodying and we are adopting what God says love is. And that's all that I have.
As always, I thoroughly enjoy just connecting and having these conversations and being able to share, um, some what we believe to be valid points in the direction of what the Bible teaches in the direction of His will. One of the things I am intentional about is removing opinion. Now, I will tell you when it's my opinion, because I don't want my opinion to taint anything that has to do with His word, but I try to make sure that my opinion is within line with His word. And so when we look at this word love, I like to start it off by saying, I think Paul said it best in one of my favorite scriptures. He says, now unto him who is able to do exceeding abundantly, not exceedingly abundantly, like most people say, but exceeding abundantly above all you can ever ask or think, according to the power that worketh within you. I think you have to come to the conclusion that the most powerful thing that you will ever encounter in your life is twofold: the love of God and the grace of God. And when we look at it from that perspective, we have no choice but to submit to both. We submit to His well love, we submit to His grace simply because we want to be intimately involved with His plan. Whenever we move outside of His love and outside of His grace, even though He still loves us, we are acting in what we tend to call disobedience. And as we talked about previously, disobedience is likened to some other form of existence, which is where we do not want to exist. So I want to leave you with that. He is able to do exceeding abundantly above all you can ever ask or think, according to the power that worketh within us. And the power that worketh within us is the love that He has for us that comes to and through. And when you view yourself as a vessel for His love, when you view yourself as a vessel for His power, then you humbly accept the challenge. So And that being said, I just want to kind of talk about and just kind of point you back to the Empowering Perspective membership program, because me and Miss Anita V, we're about to get hot and heavy on these recordings. And again, these recordings are all about a way to implement these things into your life, step by step processes. So, again, I just want to thank each and every one of you for an amazing morning. I hope something that we say resonate with you. I hope something that we say inspire you and want to just go out and just love on someone, not from your reservoir, but from what he sends to your reservoir and through you, right? So have a great rest of your day and have an even more wonderful weekend. And until next month, where me and Onita come back and talk to you about reframing the image of relationship, you guys have a great and wonderful weekend.
Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all. Too many things going on, I can't keep track of them all. From people dropping a bomb to people putting up walls. I feel like life is on hold, perception stuck in a vault. I know that time can heal all, but how much time till we fall? It's awfully chilly outside, when there's no shelter to hide. When everything is a lie, you'll find that out in some time. But when the things on your mind are all considered a crime, communication aside, we'll all just fight till we die. Is this an argument, or just the start of it? Either way, I don't want